Good morning. This video just explains the final exam project for Anatomy and Physiology 1. You need to create your own case study. You've gone through a bunch of case studies this semester, so you kind of have a general idea of what that means. You're going to come up with some kind of medical scenario in kind of a story type of format. Your scenario has to include one of the systems discussed this semester. So that would include cells, tissue, integumentary system, skeletal system, nervous system, and muscular system. Along with your scenario, you need to have 20 questions to get full credit for the assignment. 3 of those questions need to be very specific. One has to address either a diagram or a table or some kind of analysis of a visual. So it can be, for instance, a diagram of structures, and you could ask about naming a structure. It could be a table of test results, and you have to analyze the test results. But there needs to be one question where a student has to analyze an image that you've included somewhere in your scenario. The second question has to involve either or some concept involving the cell or tissue layer of organization, level of organization of your particular disorder. And the third question has to involve using vocabulary that was discussed in Unit 1. So the different ways that we describe the body, different regions of the body, different ways that we separate out the body, different cavities of the body, any vocabulary word that was discussed within Unit 1. So 20 questions, and 3 are specific. One about a diagram or an image, one about cells, tissues, and then one about using vocabulary. Your scenario, obviously, you will create, and then your questions, you need to include an answer key that provides the answers to your questions. So hypothetically, I would be able to give your case study to a student in next semester and then have the answer key if I wanted to use it for a case study in one of the units. So it needs to have an answer key. It also needs to have citations. I'm not overly concerned about how you choose to cite your work. You can use MLA, you can use APA if you're familiar with that. Quite honestly, for the purposes of this particular assignment, if you put the name of the website that you used and then cut and paste the website link next to it, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to get bogged down in the grammatically correct way to cite, but you do need to include a list of the citations that you used. The last thing that you need to do is that for each one of your 20 questions, you need to link it back to the course criteria that it meets in your particular class. So for instance, depending on what course you are taking or what college you are taking this course through, in the learning management system, there is a list of the course criteria. These were the things that, the state wanted you to be able to know in this class. That's posted. So for instance, it might look like this. So it might be in your learning management system looking this way, or you might be in a course where it looks like this, where it's listed in a table kind of looking like that. Either one, it doesn't matter. You can see here that there are these numbers. This is the course criteria. So let's say, for instance, you asked a question about you're doing a disorder on the muscle system, and your question is which type of muscle would be found in the heart, right? So that technically would meet criteria 7.1. So in parentheses, you would just put 7.1, indicating that that is the criteria that it would meet. Maybe it meets more than one, which is fine. You can put all of them that criteria meets. You might use one multiple times. You might use 7.1 in 3 different questions. That's totally fine too. But for each question, you need to address where that competency comes from. So again, here's 9.1.6 if your question addressed that. So you have these all listed on your learning management system. So you can go through and find and link each one of your questions to the criteria that the state wanted you to know. You can use this rubric to help you. So hypothetically, you should be able to go through this rubric and know exactly what your grade is when you submit. Here's an example of how you should put your criteria behind each question. So if you have questions about that, there's an example there. If there's any other questions that you have about this assignment, please do not hesitate to ask.